Hello everyone, my name is EVOO and welcome to Cooking with the Koyas. You know, when it comes to chili, there's probably about 1,000,000 recipes out there, but you know what? Now there's gonna be 1,000,001. I've got a delicious recipe and I'm gonna share my version with you right now. For this recipe, we are gonna need 3 to 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, 2 medium-sized onions that I am gonna slice and dice, 2 garlic cloves, sliced and diced, 1 red bell pepper, of course, sliced and diced. We're going to use 8 ounces of cremini mushrooms, but you could use regular mushrooms, and we are going to slice and dice these as well. 1.5 tablespoons of butter. I've got 2 pounds of lean ground beef here. I'm going to use 1/2 teaspoon of hot tapenade. Now, if you don't have a hot tapenade, you could use 1 chili pepper or you could use chili flakes. I'm also going to add 2 tablespoons of chili powder, 1.5 tablespoons of cumin. Now, my kids say, "Evo, you don't need any sugar." I used to add a little more sugar, but thanks to them, I've cut down on the sugar, but I am still going to use 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. I have here a can of San Marzano tomatoes, that's 28 ounces. We've got 1 can of red kidney beans, that's 19 ounces. And I have 1.5 cups of beef broth. That's it. Let me start chopping and we'll make our way to the stove. So with everything now chopped up, let's get our 1.5 tablespoons of butter. And I'm gonna go with 4 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. Okay, 4 tablespoons it is. There we go. Because you're going to find that a lot of this is going to get absorbed by those mushrooms and onions as well. Okay, so we're going to melt this butter and marry it together with the olive oil. Now let's add our garlic. And I'll tell you what, anytime a recipe starts off with butter, extra virgin olive oil and garlic, you know you're off to a fantastic start. Okay, so we're only going to cook this for like 30 to 60 seconds. All we want to do is get that olive oil and butter flavored with the garlic nicely. That is a beautiful aroma for sure. So now what we can do is add our mushroom, our chopped pepper, and our chopped onion. Get that all in together. Now that's going to cook down. So we're going to want to continue to cook this until A, it cooks down, and B, the onions are nice and soft and translucent. So just kind of mix everything together, and I'm going to keep it on medium heat, and we're going to continue to stir this occasionally until it cooks down nicely. So it's going to take about 10 minutes anyhow. Now it's been just over 5 minutes. You can see it's already cooked down nicely, and this is all the water that has basically come out of the pepper and the mushrooms. It's going to release a little bit of water, and that's fine because that's going to actually help to cook these. And at this point, what you could do is add a little bit of salt. So you're going to want to, as you go along, continue to add salt. In this recipe, it's salt to taste. So I've let it go about 15 minutes, and as you can see here, remember all those juices and liquids? They are now all basically absorbed, and all you're left with is that little bit of residual oil and butter, and you can see it's not much of that either. Okay, so at this point, we're gonna add our 1/2 teaspoon of hot tapenade. Now, if you don't have the hot tapenade, by all means, you can add 1 chili pepper chopped up, or you can just add chili flakes. And again, it depends how hot you want it as to how much heat you want to put in. But this I know is relatively hot, so I'm only going to add 1/2 teaspoon at this point. Okay, now that we've got our hot tapenade in, I've got my 1.5 tablespoons of cumin. We're going to add that. And I have my 1 teaspoon of brown sugar. We're going to add that. So at this point, already the aromas start to change once you add that cumin. What you want to do is get all those spices that we just added, get them all mixed in nicely so it's uniformly spread out amongst those beautiful mushrooms, onions, and peppers. Okay, so just mix them all together. And you know what I always say, when you think you've mixed enough, mix some more. That's right. Okay, so there we go. Those are all in. Time to add our lean ground beef. Okay, in it goes. So, obviously, you have to break it down, and what we want to do is loosen it all up, and then we're going to blend it in together with our mixture here. Let's get it all blended in together. And again, you're going to want to uniformly mix everything together so that it's all those ingredients are evenly distributed. Okay, so, and what we're going to do at this stage, mix it all together, and you want to just brown the ground beef. Once it's browned, all brown, then we're ready for the next step. But right now I'm going to continue mixing this, and the same rules apply. When you think you've mixed them enough, mix some more. So that's coming along nicely. And we cannot forget one of our most important ingredients. We need to add 2 tablespoons of chili powder. So I'm just going to add 1 right now and just kind of mix that in. Our ground beef is almost all browned, and I'm going to add my other tablespoon of chili powder. There we go. Okay, and again, and mix that all in. Now at this point, I have not added any salt to the ground beef, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt right now. Again, you add your salt to taste as you go along. And this is pretty much all browned now. And again, I'm just going to mix it a little bit more to make sure I get that chili powder, or that chili spice, mixed in nicely. Okay, there we have it. So now we can add our San Marzano tomatoes. I'm just going to put the whole can right in there. Let's get all that beautiful tomato sauce out of there. Okay, now again, these San Marzano tomatoes have no salt, so I'm going to add a little bit of salt. And what goes very nicely with San Marzano tomato is oregano. So I'm going to sprinkle some oregano on there. So basically we're seasoning our tomatoes here at this point. And what I like to do, and you could do this on the side in advance, just cut up their whole tomatoes. So if you already have chunk tomatoes, you're good to go. I have whole tomatoes, so I'm just going to cut them up into little chunks. Okay, they're going to continue to cook down here as this continues to go, but I'm giving them a good head start. So let's cut those up. Okay. Okay, when you think you've cut enough, cut some more. There you go. I said it. Okay, there we go. Okay, so again, mix those all in now with the ground beef. Get that tomato spread in there. And in fact, let me get my beans. We can now add our beans because we might as well mix everything all together. Now for the beans, I have drained them. However, there'll still be some residual water left in that can, and that's fine because I don't mind that little bit of extra flavor that you get because they've been sitting in this can now for a while, and all those flavors are in there. So again, I'm going to scoop that little bit of residual liquid out of the can. All right, so our beans are in, our tomatoes are in. Stove got a little dirty. You can always tell when a good meal is happening when you dirty the stove. Okay, that's okay. I gotta clean it after. So, all right. So our beans are in. Our beef is in. Our tomatoes are in. One last ingredient, folks, that we need to add. And now as far as salt, I will taste it later, and if it needs more salt, I will add more salt. And it's a good habit to do that, is taste it along the way. Now I'm going to add our 1.5 cups of beef broth. And that brings me basically to the top of this Dutch oven. Okay, so just make sure when you start this, you have a pot that's big enough to accommodate. And I'm going to now bring this to a boil. Look at all that deliciousness in this pot. I'll tell you what, the combination of these flavors is phenomenal. If you like chili, you're going to love this recipe. Okay, because now all the hard work is done, and we're going to bring this to a boil, and then we're going to let it simmer for at least a half an hour, up to an hour. And you could tell by the liquids. When you get, when the liquid gets absorbed to a point where you're happy with the consistency and the thickness of the chili, that's when you're going to want to stop it. So it's going to depend on you. Now, we don't want a soup, so I'm going to want this to evaporate a bit. So let's bring it up to a boil by putting it on high. And once I bring it to a boil, I'll lower it down. As you can see, we have a boil going, so let's drop it down to medium heat. And now we're just going to let this simmer, and we'll see what it looks like in 30 minutes. I'm going to keep it on medium heat. And no lid. I'm leaving the lid off because I want some of those juices to evaporate as well. So, okay, there we go. We're going to leave it on medium, and we'll check back in about 30 minutes. And of course, I will stir occasionally just so it doesn't sit for a long period of time. It's been about 30 minutes, and as you can see, we have lost a lot of our liquid. And when I mix it, I like to get right underneath. Get right underneath and turn it over. Just like that. That way you know that everything is getting mixed in nicely. So our liquid is now starting to dissipate, and I'm going to let this simmer for at least another 30 minutes. So general rule of thumb, an hour is generally good, but of course you could let it go longer. You could let it go up to 2 hours. That's no problem at all. Just depends how hungry you are. We have now gone the full hour, and I can't wait any longer, and it's got the consistency that I like. So look at this beautiful chili, folks. All right, we are going to do my favorite part. Let's get a little taste test going here. Ooh, that's hot. Now, to serve this, of course, you can sprinkle a little bit of cheddar cheese on top if you'd like. But I like to eat it with a nice fresh piece of Italian bread, of course, which I made. And if you've never seen that bread recipe, I'll link it in the description for you. It's easy to make, but this is hot. Tell you what, folks. You know I've done some recipes already of Italian comfort food. This right here is what I'm going to call North American comfort food. Very comforting, very tasty. Just the right amount of spice. For me, it is absolutely perfect. Wherever you're tuning in from today, folks, I sure hope you give this recipe a try. And one thing I will say is adjust the heat, the chili, and the chili powder to taste, just like you do to salt. But I want to thank you for joining me today's episode of Cooking with the Koyas. And until next time, buon appetito. That's the way to do it right there, folks.